How's it going, everybody, and welcome to How Good Is It Really? My name is Jeremiah.
I'm Luke.
And today we're talking about Mulan from 1998 and figuring out just how good is it really.
Okay, then let's talk about it. So, man, this is taking me back to my childhood for sure.
A little bit. Yeah, I have seen this movie many, many times, and I watched it again.
I remember when...
Just to refresh on everything. But yeah, it's...
Oh my goodness. No, the member berries for sure. I remember when the Walmart, that before they developed into the super centers actually...
Yeah, just the normal Walmart.
They started carrying the Mulan branded toys. And I remember the sword from the bad guy in the movie was just this awesome, wicked cool curved sword. And I remember the bow set was at Walmart, Mulan's bow. And on the back of it, it had a little tag for the movie to go see the movie in the theater. And so I asked my dad to go take me to see the movie. And I remember it was like a Wednesday night, and my dad and I went to go see Mulan in 1998. That was a long time ago.
I don't think I saw it until it hit home video.
Okay.
I definitely didn't see it in theaters.
What was the actual length of run for this movie in the theaters? Do we know what the actual budget and how much money it made?
I don't know.
Okay.
Not really something that we.
If you guys know, you definitely let us know. Let us know in the comments. That's just something that we don't really think about because we're more thinking about content wise, not thinking about just overall production as far as what the movie did as far as money is concerned.
Yeah, but maybe we'll start adding that in later on.
If you guys want to see it, just let us know.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get started into the 10 different categories, and we'll run through and review it spoiler-free, and then we'll get into the actual story and all the fun stuff later.
We get it; it's 24 years old, but still, there's
going
to be that guy out there
seen it, so.
who's gonna be upset.
First category is writing.
Writing,
story and dialogue, basically.
Wow. Okay, how do we even approach something like this? Because there's so much of it that's tied into how I feel about Disney movies in general, the animated films. Yeah, Atlantis and Treasure Planet and a lot of the ones from that early that late 90s to mid 2000s run,
right,
where the storytelling was just on point. They just made some good ones in this time period.
I think the storytelling in Mulan is all really good. There's not all the dialogue makes sense.
Yeah, no, there's
not a whole lot of filler in there.
No, not at all.
So yeah, writing and dialogue all really solid. I wasn't going to bring up the voice acting. We'll go into that later in the actual acting portion. But yeah, a little different for animated films.
So we both love the writing, right?
I enjoy it.
Yeah, I think we both definitely agree. What's the next category? We're just going to zip right through these guys, and then we can get to actual content in a minute.
Well, what would you rate it at? Out of 10?
10, easily.
I can't go that high.
Really?
I really like it, but 10 is perfect. I know, but we've talked about the discrepancies between your rating system and mine, where he starts at 10 and goes down from there. I start at 5 and go up or down from there.
It's true. I definitely do.
So,
and I enjoyed Mulan.
I would happily give it an 8. So,
all right, cool. That's fine.
You want to score separately or
for this one? Let's score separately, just because Mulan is just something that I think we both grew
score
up
separately.
with.
That's fine.
So I'm gonna
10
go
for you. I'll go
an
8. I'll go an 8.
All right.
Acting, which is for this all voice acting.
Yep. Should we maybe substitute in just for this one animation? Because the animation is very believable. Facial expressions are great.
Well, I think we'll get to that under visual effects.
Okay.
I think animation will probably fall under that more.
Mm-hmm.
But
as far as voice acting is concerned, nothing falls flat. I think the worst possible voice acting I've ever seen is the original Resident Evil for PlayStation, which was just, good lord, it was terrible. And then if you have no idea what I'm talking about, go look it up. It's really cringy.
Or don't.
Or don't.
Just take our word for it.
The voice acting in Mulan is great. It's really good.
Yeah.
Really good acting.
I'm trying to remember. I know Pat Morita does one of the voices. So does Miguel Ferrer, B.D. Wong, George Takei.
And who could forget Eddie Murphy?
And of course, Eddie Murphy.
The voice of Mushu the dragon.
Yeah, and he's very clearly the standout.
Oh yeah,
of all of the voice acting.
Him and the horse
film.
kind of carry a lot of the scenes in this movie.
But everybody does just fantastic job.
Yeah,
anyway.
it's true.
And yeah, none of the none of the reads fall flat. None of it feels like disingenuous.
The jokes are great. It all works.
Works really well. I have a feeling we're going to score animated films in general just a little bit higher.
Probably.
Maybe. Well, there's some bad ones.
I think there's, but on whole, it's a lot easier to get these ones near perfect because.
But I think everyone
physical...
sells it really well. There are a couple emotional scenes that I think don't
I think the moms
have as good a read as they could have, and maybe should have for the gravity of the scenes that they're in.
Agreed.
So I'd go with 8 again. On acting,
I'm gonna say like 8.5.
You go 8.5.
Yeah,
I think decimals on me. Come on.
Yeah,
man.
I think I think Mulan's mom specifically, her reads typically seem a little bit kind of lackluster. Like the voice actress wanted to present a more
that might
reserved...
be what they were going to.
Yeah,
but I was thinking like some of the interactions between Mulan and the Emperor as well towards like the.
Okay.
We'll get into that.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Some of the interactions with Mulan and some of the other characters where, given the situation that they're actually in, like it's just not quite there. Like that something extra that is hard to get without actually like acting opposite your scene partner. So yeah, 8. I go 8.
Sure. All right. What do we got next?
Next is cinematography, which cinematography and visual effects kind of be combined for the animation as a whole.
This is a 2D animation, correct? This is not...
I believe it was 2D animation, but I also believe it was one of the first uses of CGI in it.
Yeah, there are some sequences that have that. I think the avalanche in it, and the panning of the Forbidden City, the Royal Palace. There's a very clear CGI moment there. But the majority of it is two-dimensional paintings, correct?
But that being said, like the way everything is framed and shot,
great,
is like how you would like
do a movie,
the actual movie, and it's done very well, especially with like some of the sweeping shots of like the Great Wall and some of the mountains that we're going through, and just like the camera movement in animated film, like it still matters. It still matters, and it's all done very, very well.
We should probably point out too that the Mulan live action movie and the cartoon, aside from characters sharing the same names and there being like the same general story, have very little else in common. So if you're watching this with the expectation of thinking that the cartoon, if you haven't seen, which I don't know how you haven't seen at this point, are going to be the same, they're not. They will be different, and they are different. So just know that.
Two different movies.
It's completely different. And so that, for me, I'm not even going to bring that up or even talk about it because it's a completely separate and totally different review for me. Completely. The movies are divorced in my head.
Well,
like, I can't.
Actually different movies.
Well, that's true, but then you look at like Cinderella versus the original like animated Cinderella, and those are like beat for beat almost.
Yeah, but they're still different movies.
They are, but specifically the movie was made with more like a China pleasing mindset, where they like specifically went towards like they were going to make a more lore correct Mulan for the live action movie.
Sure.
And it ended up in a very different film, like totally divorced from the source material that we ended up seeing in 1998 with this movie. They're
different movies.
Fine. They're different movies, but different in my mind for different reasons than in his mind. But anyway, just know that ahead of time.
I just see them as different movies.
But just know that ahead of time, that if you watch the live action movie, it's got very little in common with the cartoon. Moving on.
And is actually more accurate to the fable. But
true. Less successful, though. We can probably talk about that at a later time, though.
Yeah. Later. Other time. So yeah, it's kind of hard to rate animated film on cinematography, but I go 7 on it.
Animation, I think, was par of the course for 1998. I think it looks amazing.
Yeah, it's all really solid for the animation.
I mean, it's something that I'll have my kids watch, and I know that they're going to enjoy it as much as I did.
I know. Nothing stand outish about it.
No, there's nothing
just all
like
really good.
Game
it's all really good.
No, and it's not like Treasure Planet where there was an overabundance of CGI that really made the movie. It sold the theme and the style. Right. And there was a different, I believe, a different animation style that they went with Treasure Planet. And what was the other one? Atlantis was the other one. They did they completely changed the animation style, and I think they were in a transitionary period between like the old way of doing it and into more of a modern fit, I guess you could say.
Perhaps.
But anyway, Mulan is just, it is what it is. you watch it and you don't notice that there are any crazy, weird things they've done. It's just
Not really, no.
That's a
It's
Disney
just good.
animated movie. It's just good. Yeah.
So yeah, I would go like 7 in both like cinematography and visual effects. Like one's kind of part of the other, but I'd go like 7 on each of those.
I'm gonna go with a 10.
On each?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with 10 for sure. I really
You
like
are
the
way too generous, my friend.
I really enjoy the smoke effects in the movie. Are more like
Really good smoke effects.
They just have like this cool art style that they do in them, and they're really cool. That's just a weird
editing.
tangent. Okay, hard to say for an animated film because
I mean, it's still edited.
yeah, but how much of it? I guess when I think of editing, I think of like movies that I can see deleted scenes, and then I can try to like recompile either by watching an extended cut and go, okay, I see what they did there, to make the movie shorter, in which case I would score the editing either lesser or higher depending on how good the edits were.
Sure.
But for a cartoon, because I can't see what was taken out or what was put in, that's going to take away from it where I can't really give a full score as far as editing is concerned.
I don't think you have to see what was taken out to appreciate what they left in necessarily, because like sometimes there isn't extra footage. Like it's literally just like sometimes there is, but sometimes there never was meant to be.
Right. It's just it is
very
what it
rarely.
is.
Like there's normally extra stuff, but we don't always see whatever's left on the cutting room floor. So it's just I think you can judge the editing effectively just based on how the pacing of the film works with the tone of the film and what it's trying to accomplish. This movie goes by very quickly.
Yeah, it does.
In a very good way. Like, it is constantly engaging, things are constantly happening, and the editing is snappy enough to actually carry you along with that, where everything in this film just works seamlessly together.
Yeah, I can't really say that I noticed any
With
edits
the animation,
that don't
the
work.
writing, the editing, the music, it's all done just
I will say
superbly.
there's one edit specifically that actually as a child I remember being a little lost. Like I didn't know what was happening.
Okay.
And it's at the very end of the film when Mushu and the cricket take over a fireworks booth and attempt to shoot the fireworks from it.
Who are you? Your worst nightmare.
It's a great line, and it's delivered really well. But
I so want him to say, I'm Batman.
that edit right there, though, was a little jarring. I remember as a kid, them kind of looking to it and panning to it, and you go, okay, that's where they're going to go, and they're gonna do something with that. But then the framing for the shot was a little weird, and I got a little bit confused as a kid, where I was like, oh, where did this go? Like the edit was just a little bit off. Maybe that's just me, but that's the only thing I can say that I noticed.
Yeah, I didn't feel that.
Maybe it was just me. Yeah, maybe it's just something
maybe I've just
about...
seen it enough times where it's like everything that I maybe missed as a kid, completely forgot about now.
Right, and I saw this movie when I was 4 years old, so that I'm going off that memory of seeing it in the theater for the first time, being a little lost. I could have just needed to pee really bad, so I don't really know.
Editing 9.
Yeah, 9. Okay, for sure.
Sound, track, and score.
Music is so memorable in this
fantastic.
movie.
All the songs are wonderful. It's a Disney classic, even though it's not a classic. It's the Disney Renaissance era. But 10.
Oh yeah,
music's
10,
wonderful
for sure. Absolutely, with no reservation, an absolute 10. And for those of you who don't know, Jackie Chan, who voice acts which character in the film? I believe it's Zhang's father, isn't it?
I don't know.
I can't remember either. But
I'll check it real quick.
In the Chinese version of the film, Jackie Chan actually sings one of the songs from the movie, and it's actually quite good. If you guys haven't looked into that, Jackie Chan's actually...
I don't see him on the immediate cast.
Maybe it was just the Chinese. Maybe it was just the Chinese one that he substituted one of the characters for.
Probably that totally makes sense.
I just remember reading that at some point, but I know
not
for
in
a fact
the American
that
release version.
in the soundtrack, the actual release soundtrack in China, Jackie Chan sings one of the songs. He's really good, not just an action star. So, okay, where are we at?
Okay, up next is set, deck, costuming, and wardrobe.
It's period accurate.
I don't know.
I will say, given kind of the time period that you're looking at, it's right before the Mongolian invasion of China. Obviously, that's the theme of the movie, is the Mongols invading China. Mm-hmm. The Great Wall has been built at this point. I am not a Chinese historian, but I will say from what I do know, the fireworks and the cannons that they use, they did have those. The Chinese actually invented gunpowder.
Yeah.
And so that may have been an actual point of warfare. Not that they had like dragon-shaped cannonball heads. That's ridiculous.
And it's weird because I'm trying not like I don't want to judge it on historical accuracy
because it's a cartoon and it's also a myth. More importantly, it's a historical myth.
Yeah,
so liberty is taken.
It's a poem basically that all of this is based on. So I do know there are like historical inaccuracies with like some of the armor and weaponry that is used, but that's immaterial to the story they're actually telling. For me, anyway,
it's fantasy.
I'm not looking at it like that. So
that's a good point. We should probably should talk about that. When a film is not trying to be historically accurate, you shouldn't judge it on the merits of whether or not it is or is not. If it makes no claim to be, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, the things I'll judge on historical accuracy are like documentaries.
Or a film that says in the very beginning, based on actual events. Okay,
no,
you set that up.
Then
I do for sure, especially when it's like a real.
See, I don't because I know better.
Well, if it's like a story about someone's life, like a biography or something, then if they set that up in the beginning based on true events, it's like, okay, well, which parts were true and which parts are false? And if they set it up to be that way, then they have an obligation to the audience.
Well, based on true events.
Right, but that implies some level of realistic
some level
depiction.
of validity to what they are depicting on screen, yes, but
how much liberty is taken, though, is where the caveat
sure, and
comes in.
There can be a discussion there on how much was actually changed, but I don't think that deters or takes away from a film and how good it can be.
I think unless it's a glaring issue, which I can't think of any off the top of my head, typically they get most of that stuff.
But anyway, we're not experts in Chinese history.
Nope.
I just know it all looks and meshes together really well.
It's believable.
Like that's where things are most commonly
believable.
like really odd or most noticeably really off. Like when certain design choices and things just don't match up, and you'll notice that in live action films sometimes between different set pieces. It's like, okay, clearly there's just a little confusion, like they're not paying attention, they're not paying close enough attention to have consistency betwing things
when style things change, or like,
and you can have that in animation as
weird
well, but as far as I remember, it's all pretty consistent, and I enjoyed it. It looks good.
I didn't notice anything that was out of place.
An
really.
8.
An 8.
My go-to number for this one, apparently.
I mean, an 8. I don't really know that this is a category that you can get wrong unless you really screwed up, so I'm going to have to say 10.
All right, yeah, I know.
All right,
audio mixing and sound design.
Oof, okay. The avalanche scene is the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah?
Really good. I love the rumble effect, and the snow falling is just very believable. And I remember as a kid being super afraid.
Yeah.
For the characters, because it was so real feeling at the time. Again, I was 4 years old. People cut me some slack, but still, it's really good.
Yeah.
It's definitely not a low budget Disney film at all. They put a lot of thought and effort into how this film looks and presents itself, and more importantly too, they use traditional Chinese instruments in the soundtrack as well, which kind of plays into it as well for me, and I liked that. I really love this movie.
Yeah, so the music wonderful, and the overall sound design, I think it all works pretty well. Again, it fits what you're seeing on screen. When you watch it, nothing like just jumps out like, oh, that's like that didn't work.
No, yeah.
Like there's no weird ADR stuff happening, or just things that are mixed oddly, or sound effects that are clearly like, I don't think that's what you meant it to be. Like it all works.
Yeah,
it all works. A 10.
Yes, good production value, and the sound mixing is well done. Well done.
Second to last category, directing.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
It's an interesting one.
Go ahead and take this
and we've kind of talked about this before a little bit, maybe on camera. I know we have just between us with putting directing last, because directing is kind of a culmination of all the categories that we covered before it, because certain directors are more involved than others.
Yes.
Certain directors have more pull and have a greater say in some of the production than others, but generally speaking, a number of the categories that we've already talked about are kind of under the purview of the director anyway. So we kind of put it last because he's in charge of the whole ship to some degree. So that being said, I think the direction of this film was all really good. Again, all of the voice acting was well,
the vision
assuming
is
that
achieved.
he had some say, in
right.
the takes that are used.
But from
matching
beginning
it up
to
with the
end,
animation and
it's a
everything.
cohesive narrative, and
yeah.
it makes sense. And it has a
It's
satisfying
like,
conclusion.
what, 94 minutes?
Yeah. It's just a solid hour and a half
Short
long.
and sweet, but very, very good.
Good conclusion. Very feel-good movie. Great ending.
A 10 for you?
Si, senor. it is a 10 in my opinion.
I cannot go a 10 yet. I gave music a 10. I'm going to go 9 directing.
9. Okay.
Just because like the movie as a whole works just wonderfully together, so I can't really. There's no one area to harp on. Like, I just kind of got this wrong.
Right.
It's just not. There.
And if we didn't catch something, guys, if there's some historical thing,
historical inaccuracies not included, because that's like, again, like that's not something.
Hey, and if you notice something
that
they got totally wrong, and you happen to be learned on the subject, let us know below. I'm a history buff. I have a degree in history, specifically World War II history. So this is not my purview at all. Took a course on it when I was in my upper grads, and that was it.
Last category is just the major like subjective category. Enjoyment. How much did you like the film?
20.
Okay, so that's a 10.
No, legitimately, this is one of my favorite animated films of all time. I'm usually pretty picky when it comes to animation, and I know for me personally, just between I love that they don't try to force any kind of politics in this movie. It's one of those perfect depictions of strongly written, very well fleshed out, female-led narratives. Like Ripley from Aliens, Mulan is a heroine in the story. She is written well, and she is not defined by the fact that she is a woman, despite the fact that the narrative is about the fact that she is a woman. That is more anecdotal to the point that her character is what drives the movie forward. And I think for me that is the reason why I love this film so much, is because it's totally believable. That somebody would love their father so much that they would choose to go to war for them so that their father does not be guaranteed a fast death at the hands of the wolves at the gate because of a previous war injury.
Right.
Totally believable.
Keep talking, I'm doing
and
that.
And it makes perfect sense to me. And again, I really hate it when modern movies just seem to misunderstand that if you just put a woman in a film, that's going to make the movie better because she's a woman. Case in point, things like the Melissa McCarthy comedies, which are, I mean, if they're your thing, great. They're not for me. They're terrible. Or Amber Heard in Aquaman. She's got bad chemistry and she's a lousy actress. And we're seeing a lot of that stuff come out about the whole Johnny Depp trial with her. Yeah, no, my English has been really bad today. I've had a lot going on. Anyway, the film overall for me is a perfect example of a female-led story done right in a time setting that is totally believable, with great animation, great directing, wonderful music. It has emotional moments, and still watching it today, 24 years later, I feel exactly the same way I did when I was a kid. And I have like goosebumps just thinking about it because I love this movie so much. So yeah, that's my final thought.
All right, so your initial score, 97.5.
97.5. Can I have like an extra 50 for just like sheer awesomeness?
And mine is a paltry 85.
A B plus. I think that's just a B average actually. Anyway, yeah, no, it's good. It's great.
But it's good. Yeah, it's
so
like
we want to get into spoilers
solidly
now?
recommend if you haven't seen it.
Please do.
It's
Absolutely.
been 24 years, so how have you not seen it? But
Yeah.
maybe I mean, there's a whole generation of younger people now
and I
that
think,
haven't seen a lot of these movies.
I think
so,
now actually, if you can find like a collector's edition of like the like there was like a Disney like special gold box
right, yeah,
that's actually worth some money now. Believe it or not. They were kicking around thrift stores my whole life.
Yeah, definitely recommend. But now, if you haven't seen it, we're going to get into spoilers and talk about not the movie beat by beat, but just some of our favorite or least favorite parts of the film as a whole. So,
can we
spoilers
just
from here on out.
Dedicate the entirety of this portion to like Eddie Murphy's jokes and how good they are. But no, in all seriousness,
this is
3, 2, 1. We're going to hit spoilers.
Okay.
And here we go.
This is, speaking of Eddie Murphy, not a big Eddie Murphy fan.
I'm not either. I have Beverly Hills Cop 1 and 2, and maybe Haunted Mansion, maybe.
He's very talented.
Yes.
Just a lot of what he does, not for me. But all of his voice over work, all of his voice acting is always wonderful.
Yes.
And yeah, he is clearly perhaps the best part
of the horses
of the movie.
Facial
the
expressions.
Horse and the cricket and the interplay that two animals that are not voiced.
No.
And a tiny little dragon voiced by Eddie Murphy. The chemistry that those three have in an animated film is better than a lot of movies you're going to see with actual people in them.
Yes, easily.
And it's just wonderful. It's so good. I'm trying to think of where I want to start story-wise.
Yeah, it's a hard one.
Just anywhere?
Yeah, really. I mean, we can just jump in. Let's just talk about like we said, like our favorite moments from the movie.
Yeah, but I'm trying to think of where to start. Okay, so this movie has my favorite, not just my favorite song in this movie, but my favorite Disney song ever is Reflection.
That's a great one. Absolutely.
Like, not just in this movie, but of all the Disney movies that I've seen, it's like, that's my favorite.
And let's talk about that actually for a minute, because that's one of my favorite moments too. Not the song per se, but the reason for the song.
Yeah, and so the moment the song comes in the film is a really good one too.
Yes, it is. So, I mean, let's just kind of talk about it for a minute. So, Mulan is basically attempting to be integrated into like a matchmaking school so that she can learn how to be a proper housewife, essentially.
And get matched with a husband.
Yes. So, and this is actually the part of the movie where there's a lot of liberties taken, but as far as this whole Confucian era of domestic life for women is very, very, very accurate in the sense that women were seen as second-class citizens in China, and to some extent still are. I mean, even under the one-child policy, little girls were murdered by the thousands just because they didn't want girls. So this part of the movie is really accurate in its like, and it's very lighthearted. It's very, very, very
it doesn't
funny. It's not. It is not played for politics at all. It is just kind of, they took something, they were like, oh, this is part of, ancient Chinese culture, so we're just going to kind of like riff on it a little bit, make a joke out of it. So, and she's coming off of that, failing horribly, all of it, not because she's a tomboy, but because she's just klutzy and doesn't really understand the point.
To be fair, it's the cricket's fault.
It is the cricket's fault, absolutely.
Mulan
she tries the whole
did
time.
Nothing wrong. She actually did everything right. She even, wrote down all the notes on her arm so she could try and remember everything. And the cricket gets loose, and the whole thing falls apart.
Blame the grandma, freaking grandma. Anyway, no,
grandmas,
man, the matchmaker though, I will still to this day laugh.
What a horrifying creature!
Laugh so hard when the tea gets thrown in her face, and she's drawing the mustache on her face, and just watching an animated character do something that is so ridiculous, and then watching Mulan, the animators just, it's pure gold. The way that they just captured the essence of what a real person would react to in a situation like that. And she's trying so hard. Anyway, so we're coming off we were talking about the song.
Yeah.
And so she's obviously failed terribly, and her family is just very disappointed. Her father loves her to death, but just wants the best for her, and obviously it's based in a culture that's very different from our own, so you can't judge it based on that. That being said, when this song happens, you're inhuman if you do not cry just a little bit, for feeling the amount of, just as a teenager, we've all been there, struggling to find your place in life, trying to figure out when the person that you are inside is going to be seen by everybody else because of some external failing that you haven't quite figured out yet. So relatable, it hurts. So relatable.
Yeah.
Can I talk about one of my favorite moments
now?
Go for it. All right, so this is actually kind of a... so aside from the Eddie Murphy jokes, because honestly, that's part of the reason why the majority of this film is just loaded with 10 out of 10 moments where it's like a comedy special almost. But that being said, the part I want to talk about is actually the music, because the music in this movie is just, my goodness, it is so good. Specifically, the part where Mulan makes the decision to join the army and take her father's place. And I like get goosebumps just thinking about it, because like with the rain and then the
lightning flashes,
the lightning, and then just like
the
this
synth comes in, and
haunting synth melody that just captures the drama of the moment for a friggin' cartoon.
Yeah,
it's better than most movies I've seen in the past 5 years. For drama, just for drama.
Sure.
Right in this moment. It's just so good. And then, she leaves, and then a whole mess of things happen after that. So, I mean, obviously we could just talk about point for point, but that would be boring and stupid. Go watch the movie. But what's your next favorite point?
Oh, my next favorite...
Gotta take a drink, man.
I should have thought of this beforehand. And as usual, I didn't prep a whole lot. We just kind of... turn the camera on and start talking, and then things happen.
Yeah.
Good or
We're
bad.
so prepared. We're professionals.
But I agree with everything you said so far, because the music, especially at that point, is really, really good. I'm trying to remember, because there was this one part in the film that stood out to me when I was watching it. I'm trying to remember what it was, and I can't.
Okay.
For the life of me, and it's really frustrating. I should have taken notes, and I didn't when I was watching it. So it's like, oh, I'll remember this. It's it's a very obvious thing, and now I just don't remember it much at all. But I will say that there was a few beats in the story that, just in the way that people would actually interact with one another, where the movie kind of falters a little bit, which is why I give the rating like an 8. Is like, it all works for the tone of the film and what they're going for, but like, there's no logical reason why Mulan, when she's meeting with the matchmaker, would not say, "There's a cricket in your tea." Because that's the main problem that kind of kicks everything off, is the grandma finds this lucky cricket, sticks it in like a little cage and attaches it to the back of Mulan's outfit, basically, and then the cricket gets free and jumps into the matchmaker's tea that Mulan is preparing, and then that's what kicks off like the whole chain of events that just ruins everything. Anybody in that situation would
just point that out.
Like, there's instead of not saying anything and just like creeping up on them and trying to like snatch the cup away,
right,
and like jumping it all over them, and then like screaming in the fire, and like it all, it's a cartoon, it's all played for laughs, like it works for the tone for what they're trying to do, but it just like, it lost a little bit for me right there, just because like, not 100% believable, where most of it is. Like, you could see somebody reacting in the ways that they often do.
Right.
Except for right there. That was one part where it kind of...
a little bit flat right there?
Fell a little flat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man. So, I think...
the three friends.
Yes,
Yao,
I was just about to bring that up.
And Ling.
When you first run into them in the village, or in the army camp, and the one guy is like showing off his tattoo that will protect him from harm.
Protect me from harm.
And just gets blasted in the face, and it was it's just like a background moment, really, because you see Mulan coming in, and then you see these three, and it's a perfect foreshadowing moment of three characters that are going to be so central to the story from that point forward, but done in a way where they just it was perfect magic, just movie magic, shoehorned right in, and it was perfect. Didn't even notice. Works perfect. Played for laughs. I remember everybody in the theater cracking up at that point. It was so funny, and it's still funny.
I was trying to remember. Oh, what's his name?
Gosh, the rest of the army training montage too is really good as well. I think the song that everybody remembers, "Let's Get Down to Business," that's the one sung by Jackie Chan, by the way. Not in the American release, but I believe in the Chinese dubbed release, that one was sung by Jackie Chan. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's right. Anyway, that whole segment throughout the middle of the film the editing is really well done there. Just the montage from everybody being clueless and helpless, farmers being trained into soldiers by professional soldiers, and there's like 2 of them. Zhao and his father, who goes off and then is murdered by the Huns. in.
I mean, murder is a
on the
strong
wall.
word. It's war.
I believe they're
He just
killed in
gets
cold
killed.
blood, though. I don't think they were actually like killed in a fight. I believe they were ambushed and.
Yeah, that's war, my dude.
Right, I know, but I think that technically qualifies as like under modern warfare conventions as like. Maybe I'm totally off base here, but anyway, he's killed.
I'm not buying it.
He's killed in a really dramatic way, and then they end up finding that after the fact, and that's a really good drama moment too. Totally believable, and you can see the pain in an animated character's face.
Yeah,
really good.
Going
really
back
good.
to when they're in the camp, the "I'll Make a Man Out of You" montage, which like it's a song that chronicles basically their entire journey through boot camp, basically from they first get there and things are horrible.
Oh yeah,
they just suck at everything.
They have a fight over who gets food first in line.
And I really like the progression that the characters make in like what 5 minutes?
Yeah, maybe 3 minutes
at the most.
Yeah, something like that.
Not a whole lot of time, but all done very well, and the growth that the characters make and the progression that they make is as believable as it can be in a film. But like, you know, Mulan is clearly on the brink of like leaving, and Li Shang like actually walks up and like, you know,
Li Shang,
pack up,
not Zhao. Zhao's his father.
Zhao's his father. Li Shang. Like in the song, you know, pack up, go home, you're through, is what he sings as he like hands the reins to Mulan, basically, you know, telling him to go home. They're not, like, they'll never cut it. And that's when like the turning point in the song with the visuals where everything starts turning around.
Yep.
Because she climbs the post and retrieves the arrow, and it's a true to life thing that when you start improving and getting better, you improve the people around you as well. At least I believe that.
And it's also we should point out at this point too that it's not, they do not play this for an ultimate third wave feminist move where she does everything better than everybody because she exists and is a woman. That doesn't happen here. The only point that I can remember off the top of my head where she's a standout is when she climbs the post, because no one seems to figure out that you use the two dumbbells essentially to like as a counterweight to like climb this 40-foot tall wood post.
Yeah, the work, you know, smarter not harder.
Exactly.
Mindset. Yeah. And that you know is a great point, because there's not really, there's nothing special about anyone in this movie.
No,
they're all written very well.
They're regular people, and that's the thing, is that nobody stands out as being, because of X immutable characteristic, you now have X outcome. That's not a thing. Everyone is
it's
just there.
They all suck at everything for the first half of their training, and then they actually start to improve. And by the end of the training, you know, end of the song, end of the montage, they're actually all very competent and very skilled and on level with one another. And
right.
It's a maybe my second favorite song. Great montage too. Fantastic montage. But maybe second favorite song, I'll Make a Man Out of You.
That one's really good.
I could do without the A Girl Worth Fighting For song.
That one's just really funny.
That one just feels like filler.
It is filler.
It does.
It definitely is filler, but it's also, again, played for laughs because no one in the camp is aware that Mulan is a woman. And so as she's going through this moment of like, yeah, I'm a man too, and everyone else is just painfully unaware of how feminine this person is. Right. And they're just going through this song, and it's really funny, and it's done in a really, really believable way.
And it works as a great kind of juxtaposition in tone, with the shift of tone that happens.
Oh yeah,
that,
like immediately,
which is all very
right
lighthearted, you know, laughing
and they come upon
joking. Then the music stopped, and it's a straight cut to the destroyed village, and everybody's dead.
Yes, and everyone in frame at that time is just, there's this collective freeze where everyone realizes, oh my, look at what we're looking at.
Things just
shifts
got real.
Completely from that point forward, and then it's really at that point shifts into high gear as like a war film. Really?
Yeah, it's a lot of action from that point on in the last like 30 minutes of the movie, for sure.
Oh yeah, and as a Disney movie, this one's got an extreme amount of
high body count.
Yeah.
High body count. In this
yeah,
movie.
that's a lot of people
like,
who got buried in that avalanche.
Like all of them in the avalanche, except for I think 5.
And Mulan gets almost cut in half.
Yeah.
as she gets wounded to the point of it being a near fatal wound, which is how she is discovered to be a woman, because they have to remove her armor to treat the wound and find out that she is a female at that point. And then based on again, this is something that I'm not really sure if this is lore accurate or not as far as history is concerned, but the penalty is death for a woman to be caught impersonating a man in the army. And so rather than kill her, she saved everybody. They just exile her from the army. And at that point, she ceases to pretend to be a man to fill the role of her father, and instead fulfills her duty as a Chinese citizen to save the emperor, because no one will listen that... Go ahead.
But I love the moments right before that.
Which
after she's discovered, and Li Shang and the army leave for the Imperial City, and she's just left on the mountainside in the snow with Mushu, the cricket, and the horse, whose name is Khan, I believe.
Yes, it is.
And I love that they included this part where she's completely like dejected and downtrodden and just like doubting everything she's done.
Yeah.
Like actual human emotions that everybody else would have in that situation. Was everything that I was doing, was I not doing it for the right reasons? Was I not doing it for my father? Was I doing it to prove something to me? And like all these moments of doubt and like internal monologue that you would have, that she gets to have with Mushu and like the animals around her, that I really enjoy, because it's like she has those moments of doubt and she's like, okay, maybe I didn't do it for the right reasons. Maybe I was doing it for selfish motivations, like whatever the reasoning. And, she's ready to pack up and just go home, like suffer the consequences and just go home. There's nothing else I can do. And then she sees the Huns coming out of the snow, heading down. And that's when it kicks back in. It's like, I can still do something. I can still help. Even though I'm not part of the army, I'm not, she can still be a benefit and do what she knows is right in that situation. So I like that they included that middle part.
People. That's good writing. And it goes from that point, and again, they go to the Imperial City, where all of the surviving members of the ramshackle army that was compiled are being honored as heroes, blissfully unaware of the imminent threat that is facing the Emperor.
The Huns hiding in the dragon right behind them.
Yes.
Which, that dragon is terrifying.
No.
Like, in the close-ups of, like, Li Shang as he's walking up the stairs. And, the whole thing is, like, shifting, like...
ominously hovering.
And, it's just, like,
Really, really well done. And then, the fight... The martial arts, too, I should point out in this, really, really good.
Are they?
I actually... just a side note about me personally, based on like this film and a couple of others, and like a lot of Chinese martial arts films that I watched, convinced me to like get into martial arts for real, just because of how cool it was in this movie, and the swordplay and everything. It was really cool. I really liked that. It wasn't like you like your classic European style fencing match. It made sense, and it was fun to watch. Despite the fact that a lot of it was unrealistic or was Japanese. But that being said, it's still really, really cool. But yeah, those are my favorite parts about the movie for sure.
I don't know if I have any more that I can pick out specifically. Like I said, I enjoy the entire film, very much so. I don't know why I'm having trouble kind of thinking of specific. I kind of talked about everything that I wanted to.
Yeah, I think the last thing I wanted to mention is at the end of the movie, there's obviously a lot of tension between Li Shang and Mulan once he finds out that she is in fact a woman. And then at the end of the film, basically, he brings a helmet, which is like the worst way to like try to stoke up a conversation with somebody that basically you almost killed. But anyway, the grandma's joke where she's like, or Mulan goes, "Would you like to stay for dinner?" And then the grandma's like, "Would you like to stay forever?" Such a good line, really well done, because again, harkening back to the beginning of the film, where the whole point was Mulan was in a matchmaking service to try to basically find a husband and become a housewife, and then through a completely just unforeseeable set of circumstances that she makes wholly her own and becomes her own person, thus fulfilling that song, Reflection, she becomes her own person and really fills out this story of her own making and is accepted by everybody around her. And it's beautiful and it's really great, and that's good writing right there.
It's a wonderful story that is very relatable.
So relatable
to, I think, anybody. Like,
and then the only
relatable story because it's a human story.
And then the only 98 Degrees song worth listening to with
True
Stevie
to Your Heart.
Wonder at the very end of the film, with Mushu basically ribbing the oldest guardian of the family and trying to get back his place as one of the guardians of the family, despite having failed like a long line of dead people that he was supposed to protect, and it didn't work out.
A lot.
And that guy. And then eventually, the song starts to play, and the movie just ends on such a high, high
and
energy
if you
point.
Had this on VHS, which I did, and you go to the end of the credits, there are 2 music videos.
Yep.
At the end of the credits, there's one for Reflection.
Yep.
Sung by Christina Aguilera.
That's right. I forgot about that, actually.
Yep. And then the other one, the music video for True to Your Heart by 98 Degrees and Stevie Wonder. I watched both of those many, many times.
I actually really like, the music
like
in this movie.
When we were talking about Rambo, we were talking about how what a terrible end credit song that movie has. And mainly,
so bad.
Mainly, it's too much of it's too much of a shift, too much of a change when you have an orchestral song and then like an actual song on the credits. Like it normally doesn't work. For whatever reason, in Mulan, it works wonderfully.
Yeah.
And the song...
Maybe because we're able to accept it a little bit more because it's a cartoon. And because they end on a joke, too. It's like...
Maybe, because it is, it's a comedy at the end of the day.
Oh, yeah.
And it's for children, but you can enjoy it as an adult, of course. Maybe it's just because it's more lighthearted and it does end on a joke and very lighthearted. You have this upbeat, late 90s boy band music come in.
It's a fun song, too.
Yeah,
it's well written. It's not crap. It's good. It's got some harmonica in there. And
Stevie Wonder does...
Stevie Wonder being Stevie Wonder.
I was going to say, he does great, but he's great in everything. So it's like, he's Stevie Wonder. Man, I don't think there's a whole lot more to talk about.
I don't really think so at all. I think if we're just going to wrap up our final scores here and call this one a day, this has been an easy one for sure. Just super... An
easy one. Not a whole lot of negative stuff to talk about.
Oh,
just
man, what a
super
highlight.
Enjoyable across the
Yeah,
board.
seriously, what a highlight of 1990s just animation in general.
Yeah, the Disney Renaissance era of the 90s was just fantastic.
It was magic. It's straight up
and it was
magic.
basically our childhood, because I was born in 92. You were, 94?
Yeah, 94, yep.
Yeah.
So this was essentially something we both grew up with.
Yeah.
I distinctly remember riding in my dad's gold Ford Ranger to the movie theater. I can still see it in my mind's eye. I remember everything about this. This movie made a huge impact on me. It's absolutely one of my most cherished memories of being with my father, but also just this movie is just good. It's just
good. One to talk about then.
I don't think so. I think we're just going to call it it. Hey, if you guys have enjoyed this video, let us know in the comments below and leave a like and just smash that like button and comment. It really is going to help us out. And share this video with people you know. Organic growth is only going to happen through you guys sharing this, and we really appreciate it if you do. Thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.
Later.